Well, there used to be a volcano here. Of course, if you look around you, you do not see a volcano. So, what happened to it? Well, basically, Icelandic volcanoes are made out of very poor building materials, mostly just condensed ash and teflon. And during the last ice age, the Ice Age glacier covered the whole of Iceland, and the glacier just carved itself into that volcano and swept it away. So nothing remains of it except for one thing, that there is still heat in the ground. But do not worry. This is all inactive. You're not going to have a volcanic eruption occurring from underneath your feet. Or at least so I hope. It might be. Looking at your right, you can see these strange-looking hills. We name them the Red Hills, and if you look closely, you can see why. You can see the red teflon inside these craters, and what they are what we call pseudo-craters, and are formed when lava flows over wetlands, and as all that water gets trapped underneath the hot lava, it causes steam explosions. This in turn create these craters, pseudo-craters, or rootless cones, because they do not have an actual vent from its magma as well. Second largest island in Europe. It's slightly larger than Ireland, and it's also larger than the state of Denmark. And if any of you are coming from the US, Iceland is of a similar size to the state of Kentucky. And the population of the country is around 300,000 people, 340,000. And just to give you maybe a little bit of an idea how few we are really. I'm not sure if you watch the Euros this summer in football or soccer, where Italy beat England in the finals in penalties. It's a great year for Italy. They seem to win everything, just about everything this year. They need to stop and give something for the rest of us. But Iceland had some fun memories a few years ago, also playing the Euros, when we reached the quarterfinals, where we also beat England 2-1 in the quarterfinals. Yes, we here in Iceland, we will never tire of mentioning this. So if anyone here is coming from England, sorry, but no, sorry. But the population of Iceland, it would be similar to the English city of Coventry. So that gives you maybe a little bit of an idea how few we are. It would also be the most volcanically active region on the planet. Here we have volcanic eruptions occurring approximately every 4 to 5 years. And as you probably already noticed, that there is an ongoing eruption here in Iceland. Started on the 19th of March this year. This eruption could end today, could end tomorrow, it could end in the next 50 years. Scientists are not entirely sure of this. If it is a shield volcano that's being formed, and I'm going to tell you more about the shield volcanoes later, then this eruption could go on for 50 years, if not more. But the last eruption before that was in 2014 in the north of Iceland. Created the largest lava field on the planet in the last 200 years. And then we had another eruption in 2011, it's a huge eruption, in the volcano of Grímsvötn. And in 2010 we had another eruption in Eyjafjallajökull. And this eruption caught the attention of the world because it caused air travel disruption across the North Atlantic. People could not fly from London to New York in March and April of 2010. So what is the reason of this volcanic activity here in Iceland? Well, the fact is Iceland is situated on top of the so-called mid-Atlantic ridge, this deep oceanic ridge. It would be the longest mountain range in the world. And Iceland is one of the few places where the mid-Atlantic ridge comes ashore. And this is also where the two tectonic plates, the North American and the Eurasian, are splitting apart, moving in opposite direction of each other, 1 centimeter each way. So as they're splitting apart, Iceland is actually growing approximately 2 centimeters every year. So you could say that Iceland is slowly but steadily taking over the world. Now you can all stream. There's a nice view here to the right of us. You see here a mountain range of sorts. It's called the Blue Mountains, and these are all volcanoes. You can see the easternmost part of it, the southernmost part of it is capped in snow. There's a ski resort there. I'll tell you more about it in a moment. But these volcanoes, they're all in the same way. That is, they are formed in a subglacier eruption during the last ice age. So what happens then is that you have a volcano eruption underneath an ice cap. And all that magma is just trapped there underneath the ice. It has nowhere to go. So it just accumulates there, building up these mountains. And this particular mountain here on the right, it's called Víðirfell. By just looking at the shape of the mountain, you can tell it was formed in 2 separate volcanic eruptions. On the right side of the mountain, you have a kind of a mountain peak. And at that time, the glacier, Iceland glaciers, was very thick, approximately 400 to 500 meters thick. And so the magma could not penetrate all the way through the ice. But on the left side of the mountain, you can see it has a very flat top. Kind of looks like a helicopter pad. And the reason here is that at that time the glacier was much thinner, so the magma managed to melt its way all the way through the ice, and then the lava could flow in every direction from its crater, and even on top of the ice. And this is what gives the mountain top such a flat shape. I mentioned the ski resort. It's one or two in the vicinity of Reykjavik. nowadays it's only open for a couple of months during winter. When I was growing up, it was open throughout the summer. That is in the 1980s. But the fact is that we just don't get that much snow anymore. So, you know, people are not able to ski as much as they maybe would have liked. And there are public school buses that take school children to these ski resorts. And so we Icelanders, how can I put this? We suck at winter sports. Yes, Icelanders are not very good at skiing. In fact, we are probably the worst of all the Nordic countries, except for maybe Denmark. Excuse me a little bit. Hello. And I mentioned that the mountains here around us do not produce lava, because they are created in subglacial eruptions. So where does all this lava come from? Well, if you look at your right at 3 o'clock, you can see two hills there. These are called Scoria Cones. And they are formed in the last 10,000 years. In fact, these were formed in the year 1000. And what happens is that a fissure opens up in the ground. And you get these lava columns that spew high up in the air, some several hundred meters. And then it solidifies and comes down as scoria or cinder, building up these craters. And eventually the crater will fill up with magma, which then will escape from its crater, creating these vast lava fields that you see here around you. But I'm sure you're all wondering about what we are seeing here on our left, all that steam rising there up into the air. This is a geothermal parliament. This is where the people of Reykjavik get all their hot water. And so further to the left of us, there is a mountain there. You can see the snow-capped top of it. It's actually an active volcano. And because it's an active volcano, underneath it is a magma chamber filled with hot magma. So there's a lot of heat in the ground. And there's also a lot of groundwater. And so what we do, we make boreholes deep in the ground, as deep as 3 kilometers, to extract all this hot water. You can see these tubes here all around us. These tubes lead to the geothermal power plant, where the hot water will go through what we call a heat exchanger. So the hot water is too hot to send right away to the city. We need to cool it down a little bit, and we use colder water to cool down that hot water. So the hot water will flow into a chamber which is surrounded by colder water. And this is also groundwater from a shallower depth. And then we can send it to Reykjavik. The water that is coming from the ground is more than 90 degrees centigrade. And this water travels then some 30 kilometers to the city, and it only loses about 3 degrees on its way. And approximately 95% of all the houses in Iceland are geothermally heated. It's only in the West Church and East Church, which are furthest from the center of Iceland, where people have to rely on other means. And 20% of our energy is geothermal. The rest comes from hydroelectric dams in the center of Iceland. And this energy, this geothermal energy, this is all relatively cheap, and it's all renewable. And this cold water that I told you about, groundwater, we often pump that down back in the ground, so we can reuse it. It's like fracking, as you know it in the US. Sometimes causes earthquakes. So in December we only get 4 hours of daylight. Hardly feels like day at all. And And what we like to do then is read a good book. Iceland is very proud of our literacy rate. We have the highest literacy rate in the world. We really appreciate our authors and our poets. And so the most popular Christmas gift in Iceland is a good book. And we open our Christmas gifts on Christmas Eve. And so we want to go right ahead and start reading a good book. And so we would just like to stay in bed or lie on a sofa with the lights turned on throughout the day, and do not worry of the cost, because it is so relatively cheap, and the heat turned on maximum. And if it gets too stuffy inside, no, we do not lower our heat, we just open our balcony doors. Well, this landscape that you see here around you, it's quite desolate. This is the youngest part of Iceland, the Reykjanes Peninsula. The oldest rock here is around 40,000 years old. And in the 1960s, NASA used to send their astronauts here to Iceland to practice for their lunar landings, because they felt that this landscape that you see here in Iceland comes closest to what they imagined the landscape on the moon. So in 1968, both Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong came here to Iceland to practice for their lunar landing. Now this road that we are now driving on is the #1 road, or the ring road. It goes around the country some 1,300 kilometers. And this part of the road, you could say, is a mountain road, because we are more than 400 meters up above sea level. Weather can sometimes be quite extreme here, and sometimes we have to close this road. But one of the things that we Icelanders take much pride in is our rescue service, which is entirely made out of volunteers. And so it happens here every year that people get lost in the highlands of Iceland, and or cars get stuck on a road like this, and then the rescue service has to go out and rescue, and so they have to drop whatever they're doing. And there's a clear understanding there between employers and employees here in Iceland. This is something that just needs to be done. It's a small country, you need to take care of each other. But they have an interesting way of funding their operation. In December, they sell fireworks. And because everyone wants to help fund the rescue service, everyone in Iceland buys fireworks. And if you come to Reykjavik on New Year's Eve, I can tell you, the city looks like a war zone. Everyone is blowing up fireworks at the same time. And as tradition would have it, we are blowing away the old year. Great view here on our right, over our southern lowlands. Soon here on your left, you will see a gully. This is something my parents always told me to do. Look up into the gully and try to spot the hole in the rock. And this will be for good luck. So it will be appearing here on the left, up here on the left, just about right now. And degrees centigrade. So these are all hot springs that you see here. And up in the valley, furthest to the left, there's a very popular hiking trail that leads you to a creek, a warm creek. The temperature is the same as in our hot tubs in Reykjavik. And so people want to make a walk there, 1 hour walk, one way, and take a bath in this creek. And there is facility there where people can hang up their clothes. But you need always to be careful. in areas like this. The ground is very unstable. And it happened a few years ago. A young woman from Canada was walking here and she left the path, sank into the mud, and sustained 3-degree burns on her legs. She was lucky it wasn't worse than that though. Soon we're going to make our first stop here in the town of Carrickety. This town is formed around hot springs. There is a geopark in the middle of the town. And so why would you do that? Why would you build your town around hot springs? Well, you can use them for various reasons. Baking, cooking, doing laundry. And then in the 1930s, they started greenhouse horticulture in the town, using the heat here in the ground to heat up their greenhouses or hothouses to grow vegetables, such as green peppers and tomatoes. And they used to grow small bananas also in the town. But this town is also known for its many earthquakes. Every year we have thousands of earthquakes here in the town. But you don't feel them, most of them at least. Sometimes you do. The largest ones can be felt all the way to the city of Reykjavik. And in 2008 there was a very large earthquake here in the town. And it opened up a fissure underneath the main shopping center in the town. And you can see that fissure there still today. It's just covered with plastic glass. There's also, you can also see a footage there from the surveillance camera of the local liquor store. And it just breaks my heart seeing all that spilled liquor on the floor. Makes me just well up as I say this. We're gonna make a stop here for approximately 50 minutes. Let's say, let's just back here in the bus at 1/2 past.